This is the Bulkraal Podcast with Riekert.
Hello everybody, my name is Riekert. You probably recognize my face, and so I've done some beautiful videos and some not so beautiful videos with my friend MV Velman, and he suggested that I do this segment on the Bulls and be included on a weekly basis on the Bulls and give some feedback from the Bulkraal, Now, English is my second language. I had an English mom growing up in an English family, but my father was a Boertjie, so I'm half-breed as far as that is concerned. So the Afrikaans sal so nou en dan deurslaan, and the English will also make way for some expression sometime or another. In these programs, I would like to sort of scratch in the Bulkraal. That's the title of the series. And the Bulkraal is actually the place where if you dig deep enough or you speak to the right people, you'll get some information and some answers which you will normally not get on the field and off the field. If you're a regular visitor to the Bulls stadium at Loftusversveld, and incidentally, if you're a Bulls supporter, welcome. If you're not a Bulls supporter, you're also welcome. Let's convince you to become part of one of the best rugby franchises, successful franchises in the world, the Vodacom Bulls. Now, coming back to the Bulkraal, that's where the players and the rest of the entourage of the Bulls usually go and let their hair down, so to speak, and where discussions of a different nature takes place. And this is one of the reasons why I've decided to call this the Bulkraal, or the Bulkraal, the bullpen if you want to, but let's stick to the Bulkraal. And that's where you'll probably get some gossip or you get some extra information. And one of these parts is that I had the privilege of just jumping out of the press conference from Jake White announcing his team out of London, out of Wales, right? Let me rather say it's London time. But in this segment and in this series, I would like to have some idea about what is happening, like I said, in the Bulkraal, but I will also make an award of the Golden Horn, where I think a good thing happened with somebody wearing the Bulls jersey and the Madelifi, and made a contribution to the Bulls and the Bulls brand. And then there would unfortunately also be the Boktrol Award for somebody that obviously did the opposite, and that could be a person or persons, and this is what you could look forward to each week in my program. Now, let's kick off with the team. The team has been announced, and interesting, Jan-Hendrik Wessels in the loosehead position and wearing the number 1. We got used to him as a hooker at the Bulls, but he also played test rugby at loosehead, so he's familiar at loosehead, and Jake wants to give him another opportunity to just sort of tick off another game for the Bulls, and well deserved for Jan-Hendrik Wessels. Akker will join him, and Akker will also be the captain. Wilco Louw, the tight head. Then there's Ruan Vermaak and Kobus Wiese in the lock pair, and Kaba, Ludwig and Hanekom, the Lucies. Ludwig will run in as vice captain as well when Akker gets replaced by Grobler, who's on the bench. Cameron Hanekom is also there, one of the stalwarts of the Bulls this last season or so. Zach Burger, and Emmy has got some resting time this week. Zach Burger can show his, so to speak, steel. He's also a player to watch. Boeta Chamberlain, that's settling into the number 10 position, nicely so, smoothly so, may I ask. And it is really an interesting point to watch Boeta Chamberlain develop into this position, especially at the Bulls, because I think personally he was a wasted player at the Sharks, and now to get him to do what he does, and with Goosen out, as on a long-term injury, then Boeta obviously has the opportunity to show his skills, and he is really doing it, in my opinion. The place kicking sometimes gets just around the bend a little bit, and he's not as oiled as he wants to be, and we as supporters want him to be, but he'll get around, and he's a good sort of a general good player in the number 10 jersey, the so to speak general that you usually want him to be, and I would give him some time that he would grow into that position. I hope not too long in the shadows of Goosen, but Jake will hopefully be spoiled for choice in a year or two's time. Zach, Burger and Boeta, then the combination in 9 and 10. Curtly Arendse, can we say anything? Do we say anything? Dare we say anything about this pocket rocket? Last week he played just out of his boots and just showed how good a player he is, whether he wears the green and gold or the Blue Bulls jersey. He'll be on a sabbatical later this year, and he earlier in the week also made mention of the fact that he obviously sees this as a massive privilege to play for the Bulls, and you can see literally how he grows from game to game in the Bulls colours, not only on the Springbok colours. Yes, we know that he is a factor to be reckoned with in the Springbok jersey, but as a Bulls player, he is one of those loyal players that Jake has on his menu. Harold Forster, he's back. Harold Forster is back. He was a guy that was pestered with a long-term injury. He'll be back in the number 12 jersey and combining with Kane and Moody. A colleague, MV, also asked a question about the combination. And Jake, in the press conference, made mention of the fact that Kanan is actually settling into the number 13 jersey. And it's a sort of a mess up to put Kanan either in 12 or then in fullback and then in 13. So Kanan is happy to be in the 13 position, and you would expect him to be there more often than not. Interesting part that Jake also made mention of is that he sort of encourages, he deliberately encourages Kanan to hover around when Willie Leroux is around. And we know Willie is, as Jake more than once said it, the extra coach on the field when he is there. He's the plan maker, and wasn't he a plan maker and a decision maker? He was an extra number 10 last week on the field, and we just saw the accolades of Willie. And what Jake wants Kanan to do is to actually grow into the boots, so to speak, of Willie, and on and off the field to sort of imitate what Willie does, sort of echoes what Willie does, and becomes the type of leader and the stalwart that Willie is at the moment. Willie, speaking of Willie, he's not in the team and not even on the impact squad this week. Willie is obviously earmarked for the Northern Hemisphere tour of the Springboks coming up a little bit later this year in November, and obviously giving Willie the opportunity to also get closer and to reach his 100th Springbok game that he is looking forward to. Now back to the team. Sebastian de Klerk, what an exciting man. I watched him coming through at the Pumas as well. He was also here in one of the Pretoria schools. I can't just on the moment remember which school he was. Could be Garsfontein, if not mistaken. And then Henry Immelman, what an interesting inclusion as well. He also played his rugby at Scotland. And with Jake confirming that it would rain tomorrow, this could be an invaluable inclusion. And he's a total different player than Willie. So we'll see Henry Immelman just slotting in from the back and just giving the backline just that extra opportunity to play. The impact squad is Johan Grobelaar, well and truly deserved Springbok player as well as a stalwart at the Bulls nowadays. Dylan Smith and Francois Klopper will also get playtime. JF van Heerden will also get, and then Kempilu Gumede, also one of the players that excites me to see when he runs on the field. Emmy then on the field, as I said, he's not on the starting lineup on 21. And what a beautiful try he had last week. He also showed his sniping skills as a good scrum half, reading the game, anticipating moves and running into spaces. And that's interesting to see. Hopefully he has some of the same spared for this week. Barend Smith could also, says Jake, slot into 10 if he needs to, because Barend also played for the Free State at number 10. And then obviously Stedman Gans, one of the jewels of the Sevens Springboks that is included in the Bulls team this time at the Impact squad. And he's obviously waiting for his turn to make his stance as well. Now that's the team, and we look forward to Scarlets, but don't underestimate Scarlets. They had a shock win against Cardiff, we know that, but they also had a draw with Benetton earlier. I think it was the game just before that, and Albert van der Berg that played under Jake White in 2007, the bullish lock, the tall lock. He's also in the coaching team at Scarlets, so he'll be well known about the ins and outs of the Bulls and the play that the Bulls could run up and dress up in wet conditions that we anticipate tomorrow. So interesting game that's going on at, or we can anticipate for the weekend at Scarlets. Then Jake also touched on David Kriel's card. Now that is one of the most interesting parts of rugby early in the URC season. I asked the question about the red card. Jake didn't offer to speak about the red card, so we had to prod him a little bit about that. And if Jake has the opportunity, he would do that. And I used the word, isn't this a vindication for rugby? Not only for rugby, rugby in the URC. And ladies and gentlemen, we know, and I share the same sympathy with you, whether we're sitting on the main pavilion or in the Eastern Pavilion or in one of the suites, we've got exactly the same type of requirement and anticipation that we have for referees at this level. And please bear me out. I'm not there, and I understand referees. Why do people not want to become referees? It's because of the criticism that they have. But in saying the same, it is not the opportunity for us as journos to do referee bashing. But if it needs to be underlined and to be investigated, we should do our work and do that. And I'm glad that the Bulls took literally the Bulls by the horn, so to speak, and to challenge that red card. In my opinion, that was never a red card. At the most, it was a yellow card, and that the yellow card then stood instead rescinded to a yellow card. And Jake also made mention of the disciplinary committee that gave David and the rest of the coaching team the opportunity to speak about what happened and to take the circumstances into consideration. And that just brings me to another level of just a little bit of a development and probably a talking point, and we can discuss this afterwards. And I think that stadiums in South Africa, and one journo colleague made mention of that earlier in the week, that South African stadium DJs have sort of fallen out of kilter. And I think that's the word that he also used in his article. Fallen out of kilter with situations when it is needed for the supporters to sort of rally behind the player, like in Kriel's instance. If you remember last week, it was definitely a situation where Egan Cross and the rest of his team, let me just quickly check, it was Ben Breakspear, Ben O'Connor, of the Wales AR1 and AR2, and then Colin Stanley, also coming from Ireland, like Egan Cross, the TMO. When they had a discussion, there was pressure from the supporters that sort of influenced the call, because you could clearly hear Cross speaking to the ARs and also to the TMO that in their opinion there was no foul that sort of substantiated the red card. Under pressure and duly pressurized by the supporters, that became then a different story. And coming back to South African conditions, and I remember ever so well, so distantly and vividly, I was sitting in the South Main Pavilion, South Corner, when the Bulls played the Chiefs in Super Rugby in heyday. And some of the Chiefs supporters were sitting around us there, and there was a controversial decision, a part or opportunity where the referee also had to look at the transgression, whether it deserved a card. And what the Chiefs supporters do is they have these cowbells, the bokklokke, and they bring that to the stadium as well. And if you followed with me Super Rugby, when we still played Super Rugby, you would remember that they hit those clocks, or they shake it around if the bell can ring in the bokklok itself. They make a big noise with that, anticipating that call to be re-reverted to the referee and obviously the TMO. What do we do in South Africa? We sing Sweet Caroline and Rassie, Rassie if it's the Springboks. And the DJ would call for the supporters in the stadium to switch on their cell phone lights and stuff like that, instead of converting the pressure on the same situation where the referee has to make a decision away from or in favor of the local team. Why have we gone to that? Has rugby become such a sort of a distant crowd pleaser occasion in South Africa that we are unable to put the same pressure as our Northern Hemisphere co-rugby lovers, what they did last week with Egan Cross? So yeah, I'm not happy with what has developed, and obviously so are you, and the most of the Bull supporters and rugby lovers all around the world. I'm glad that there was a vindication moment, and that David's card has been rescinded for organisation reason, and I think it's also to take a little bit of pressure off David this week. Jake indicated that David would not be included neither in the run-up team as well as in the impact squad. But good on the Bulls. Then red cards. While we're on the red cards, another colleague asked about the inclusion, or the possible inclusion of red cards in the adjudication on the field by a referee. That a red card would count towards 20 minutes for a player that has transgressed. And Jake indicated, and that makes sense, and obviously let's also have that debate while we have that debate on David Kriel's red card. And while I said that, I remember that some of the club officials around here also staunchly decided that it is a well-deserved red card. In my opinion, that was never a red card of Kriel. But I digress. Let me go back to the red card that Jake just made mention of. And he said, we want hard and fast decisions from the referees, and especially the TMO, and the conjunction between the referees on the field and the TMO when there's a pause of play and a decision to be made on whether it's a red card or it's a yellow card, 20 minutes, 10 minutes, if the new red card comes into play. And Jake duly made mention of the fact, and with merit, I do agree, that it becomes a grey area again when you will have this 20-minute red card again, because the referee would sort of decide, is it now a red card or is it a yellow card? And the grey area of the red card just gets expanded a little bit more, and that's one of the possibilities that we could probably look at. And I know from news around the world that the French Rugby Federation has also indicated that they're not in favour of that red card becoming a permanent feature in rugby after the 1st of January. But let's have a discussion about that, and I'm glad that we're opening up discussions about that on the red card and also on crowd behaviour, especially at Fort Loftus. Geez, Fort Loftus has been a sanctuary for the Bulls for so many years, and that is what Willem Strauss and the rest of the figureheads at the Blue Bulls company want the Fort Loftus to become a real fortress under difficult circumstances. Then, it brings me to the last part of my submission. Geez, look at the time. We 20 odd minutes. And I promised Envia that it would be in between 15 and 20 minutes. And that would bring me to the award spot. And the first Golden Horn this week and in this series, I would gladly give to Jake White and the coaching team. They decided that they're going to challenge David Kriel's red card, and that it was never a red card from the beginning. And well done to you. You are the receiver of the first Golden Horn award, in my opinion, and that it is well deserved. Needless to say, the book draw award goes to the refereeing team. Egan Cross, Ben Breakspear, Ben O'Connor and Colin Stanley. Take a bow. In the Bulkraal's first edition, you become the proud owners of the first book draw award. Now, that's all that I have to include in this first part, or the first edition of the Bulkraal. Thanks for watching with me. Please engage with us. Please hit that like knoppie at the bottom. Become a subscriber if you're not a subscriber at Megafoon Sport. And I'm looking forward to continue with this series of talks. Let's engage on social media. My name's Simon Riekert for Megafoon Sport. It's been a great pleasure to bring this to you until a further time. And until the next time.
This is the Bulkraal Podcast with Simon Riekert.